Roll call.
Fairhope.
Here.
Clark.
Here.
Eisenbron.
Here.
Herman.
Here.
Hodge.
Here.
Jacobs.
Here.
Larrabee.
Here.
Okay, approve the agenda. We do have the removal of item 12C, all three of those items. There were proposed changes to the agreements, and so staff needs to review those items again. So that is one adjustment. Any other adjustments that I'm not aware of?
Move to approve as amended. Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Any potential conflicts of interest to declare? Okay, hearing none, we will move on to the consent agenda.
Move to approve.
Second, any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Oh, sorry. Already, roll call.
Clark.
Yes.
Eisenbron.
Yes.
Herman.
Yes.
Hodge.
Yes.
Jacobs.
Yes.
Larrabee.
Yes.
Okay, motion carries. Items from visitors. First item is Spearfish Downtown Business Association, approved special event and street closure for Art, Wine, and Autumn Fest.
Would you like me to come up?
Yeah, come on.
Okay, perfect. I apologize, I forgot my other shirt at home, so I look
That's all right.
awesome tonight. So, Nathan Hoshagan from the Downtown Business Association. This event this year is slated to be exactly like Autumn Fest has been in the past. We intend to close the 600 block of Main Street at 8 a.m. on Saturday the 19th to reopen again at 4 p.m. on Saturday the 19th. We'll have some food trucks downtown, some artists set up in different businesses downtown, and then we also have some arts and crafts and other vendors coming down that will be set up on the street. This is a request that comes not only from our organization, but other downtown businesses that are not members of our organization. It's traditionally been a very strong sales day for a lot of businesses downtown, and they were sad to see us not move forward with it for COVID, so we actually came forward with the request later than we would have liked to, because we had a lot of pushback from businesses that were asking for the event to still happen in some capacity to try to help recapture some lost sales from earlier this year.
Move to approve. Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you,
Thank you.
Nathan. Spearfish School District looking to refund the district's building permit fee of $1,097.20 for the roof repairs to the high school and waive the permit fee for the roof repairs to the administrative facility at an amount to be determined. Yes.
I don't see Doug Deputy, so I'll talk on this. The Spearfish School District has typically come forward to request the waiver of their building permit fees prior to construction. The spring snowstorm, or hailstorm, sorry, not storm like today, but hailstorm brought some damage to the high school facility. Their contractor was able to start last week prior to council action on this, so they did pay the $1,097.20 for the building permit for the high school. And they'll start the roof repair project on the administration facility, and the cost of that permit is $531. So if you choose to refund that, we would refund the contractor the $1,000 and waive the permit for the $531 for the school district. We do have it in our policies that the building official may waive project costs less than $25,000 administratively, but that's his limit. And these are both projects that are exceeding his limit.
Move to approve.
Second, any discussion? Okay, this is roll call.
Josh will cover that for me.
Clark.
Yes.
Eisenbron.
Yes.
Herman.
Yes.
Hodge.
Yes.
Jacobs.
Yes.
Larrabee.
Yes.
Okay, motion carries. Thank you. Next, proclaim September 13th through 19th as Direct Support Professionals Week. And so I do have a proclamation, and I have Rich Mulholland with us. Do you want to say a few words first?
Sure. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for having me. Rich Mulholland, the CEO for the Northern Hills Training Center. We support approximately 130 adults with intellectual and developmental disabilities here in the Spearfish area. Been doing some for 40-some years. And typically next week would be our Direct Support Professionals week, which we recognize all for all the work they do. This is our frontline staff that take care and do direct care every day of all the people we take care of. And that's what the mayor is going to read in a moment, the proclamation. Typically, we would have a number of them here, our direct support professionals, along with some of the people we support, but due to COVID right now, we serve a very vulnerable population. We're trying to kind of keep them isolated and, because of the different disabilities they have. So I do apologize, that's why they're not here tonight, and I'll just accept the proclamation on behalf of all the DSPs. Thank
Well, make sure you tell them we missed them. So I'll have a proclamation. Whereas direct support professionals are the primary providers of publicly funded long-term services and supports for individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities. And whereas direct support professionals provide essential support for individuals with disabilities, which enables them to be active members of their communities and stay connected with family and friends. And whereas there are nearly 3,200 direct support professionals working for 20 community support provider agencies and the South Dakota Developmental Center. And whereas communities are strengthened and enriched by the inclusion of all members of society, including people with disabilities. And whereas Direct Support Professional Week is an opportunity to recognize the dedicated, devoted, and compassionate workers who support individuals with disabilities and to thank them for their service to South Dakotans with disabilities and their families. So therefore I, Dana Boak, Mayor of City of Spearfish, do hereby proclaim September 13th through 19th, 2020 as Direct Support Professional Recognition Week. So yeah, make sure you relay that we miss them and thank them for everything they do, and we'll come around. Paul got the ball. I bet you want me away from the podium, right?
Hard out of my camera, so it's gonna be real professional.
I was smiling.
Thank you.
It was like I'm realizing.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks, Rich.
Thank you.
Good to see you. Okay, under City Attorney, approve the first reading of Ordinance 1327 and Ordinance amending Chapter 14, Streets, Sidewalks, and Other Public Places.
This is a pretty big overhaul of this section of code. A lot of style and form changes. Some of the substantive changes, I'll highlight those. We clarified who can make decisions about burials in a cemetery parcel, and then upon that person's death, who succeeds them in making those decisions. We've had some questions about that come up in the last few months, and we just needed to clarify that. We also created a deed. Right now, someone's receipt for purchasing the parcel operates as their proof of ownership, and so we created a deed that lays out what their rights are and that shows that they own that parcel for burial purposes. Tyler did a lot of work on it, so if there's anything he wants to add or any questions, he's available to.
Okay, is there a motion?
So moved. Second.
We have a motion and a second here. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Next, approve first reading of Ordinance 1328, amending Chapter 9, Health, Sanitation, and Nuisances.
This is another overhaul of a section of ordinance. We added definitions and some provisions for what constitutes a nuisance, such as snow and ice on the sidewalk, and a sidewalk in disrepair is treated as a nuisance. And that one's in response to changes in state law from this last year. We shored up the notice provisions and the appeal process for someone who receives a notice of violation. And then we also added a section that prohibits the destruction or alteration of vegetation on city property.
Move to approve.
Second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Okay, engineering, approve final over/under change order for the City Hall site improvement project.
We just want to get this closed out here. Final over change order came in at a decrease of almost $53,000. The total cost was $374,000. Original contract bid amount was $420,000 approximately, so overall that's a 10.9% decrease from the bid cost. Biggest changes here as far as the underage was the liquidated damages of a little over $35,000, and we did not have to end up replacing our water service line here either. Actually, it was PVC on our old maps that showed cast iron. So those were some big savings, and we'd like to go ahead and close this out, and then as well get our certificate of final completion and acceptance approved, which starts our 2-year warranty.
Move to approve. Second.
Any discussion? Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I just got a text, I think there's someone that wants in the meeting on Zoom. If we could allow them in. There we go. Thank you.
You will.
Next, select the Salem Park pedestrian bridges mitigation, update, and relocation options.
Yeah, this gets a little tedious, so please ask questions as we go along here. A while back, as you may recall, we approached you a few months back about mitigation that FEMA required us to do on these pedestrian bridges since they were never modeled with the floodplain. So prior to this, FEMA was requiring us to remove the pedestrian bridges both at Rushmore and Peoria. Since then, thanks by and large to our community who had supplied some additional information on the Peoria Bridge, we got that to FEMA, and after they reviewed that, that additional information, which kind of verified that that bridge was built pre-firm before they did the floodplain stuff. We did get an official letter in late July that we could leave the Peoria Bridge in. So that brings us up to date here. And as you recall back then, we were going to have both of those ped bridges removed sometime this year. So fast forward to now that we know that one of these can stay in, we have a couple more options, and we wanted you guys to consider them before we move forward with the removals. Option one is to leave the Peoria Bridge in, the existing one as is, and just go ahead and move forward and remove Rushmore Bridge this year. Then we could do as-bills there and proceed, get the Lomar finished. Would probably cost $35,000-$40,000 instead of that $70,000 to remove both bridges. Option two would include removing the Peoria Bridge and relocating the Rushmore Bridge in its place as well. So let me walk you through this just a little bit. The Rushmore Bridge, as I said, remains in violation and it needs to be removed no matter what. However, city staff and our consultant, AE2S, believes that there's a feasible option to be able to reset that Rushmore Bridge in place of the existing Peoria Bridge while remaining compliant with FEMA regulations. We don't know that for certain yet, but during the initial valuation that FEMA required for those bridges, the Rushmore Bridge showed a rise of 1.7 feet versus that bridge not ever being in there. And the Peoria Bridge showed a 1.9 foot rise versus nothing ever being in there too. So just looking at the cause of rise, as well as the Rushmore Bridge having a bigger span, we believe that we could put the Rushmore Bridge in the place of the Peoria one and not cause a rise or even possibly lower that, since we now have the credit of keeping that Peoria Bridge in there. Now, a couple things, if that's something you want us to go down that path, I'm gonna kind of run you through the process of what we have to do.
So what you're saying is we remove the Peoria Bridge, but that does not remove our rights to have a bridge there.
Correct. Now-
Because I'm just afraid we'll move it and they say, oh, no, now you have to go back to different rules.
Yes, so we did, so let me walk you through this.
Okay.
It's federal regulation, a little tedious here, a little thinking outside the box, but what we have to do to confirm that, obviously, we do not want to, if you chose option 2 as a path, we would want to confirm that we could truly place Rushmore over in that area before we take the existing bridge out. To do that, we'd have to have AE2S do some additional hydrological, and hydraulic analysis, modeling that Rushmore Bridge somewhere there with the Peoria Bridge out. We can do an in-house no-rise. We do not have to send anything to FEMA, and Tanya Vig did check with FEMA on that. That is okay. So as long as we do not cause a rise, we would not have to go through FEMA. We'd have that documentation, and that follows our ordinances and FEMA's. Then with that information provided, we know that it's okay to take the Peoria Bridge out. So with that scenario confirmed, we could move forward and do that. Now, if we do the no rise and it shows that we were wrong, our guess was wrong, well, at worst, then we can just keep the existing Peoria Bridge in and we'll have a crossing there no matter what. But assuming that the no rise comes in and that's the case and we can swap those, we could go forward. We would also need additional survey and design construction costs for new bridge footings for Peoria being, or I'm sorry, for the Rushmore Bridge being moved there because it's a longer span. We can't use the same footings. So we'd have to have a little design work there, which would be a little more cost. And then overall, I think we approximated about $120,000 to $130,000 overall to remove both bridges and put the Rushmore one in the Peoria place, just to give you an idea. Earlier in the year, we estimated $70,000 to take out both of those bridges, just to give you an idea of cost. Now, I don't believe we have any cost in there for moving that bridge next year yet either, so that's something we have to alter and adjust and keep in mind as well. But some of the pluses of moving that over there is, you know, the existing Peoria Bridge is very narrow. It's maybe 4 feet wide. It gets you across there, but it's not as wide as the rec path. You can only have one person going across there at a time. The 8-foot Rushmore Bridge matches our pedestrian bridge, or our path, rec paths on that. So we could get two-way traffic to continue to go through there. So that's the primary benefit. The other one is that bridge itself is much newer than the Peoria Bridge too. And we have an actual place we could put that instead of taking the Rushmore Bridge off-site to the rubble site and hoping we could reuse it in the future. We know for certain that we could use it right away and place it there. So those are some of the pluses of it. Obviously the negatives are additional costs. So keep that in mind when you're considering it. And I'll run you through, I know this is getting a little long, but I want to run you through the timeline if you choose that. So if council votes yes on option 2, we would get a proposal for a no-rise analysis for AE2S, probably around that $3,000 to $5,000 mark. If the no-rise is verified, that's something we do right away is verify it. And then we'd know which bridge we could move. If the Rushmore Bridge, if that's verified, then we can remove the Rushmore Bridge this year, get our mitigation done, and instead of hauling it off-site, we can just go put it down by the Peoria Bridge, so we don't have to haul it off-site, save a little cost. And then through the winter time, we can do the final design of placing the Rushmore Bridge near Peoria, get that out to bid early next year, and have that constructed. Well, the old one is removed sometime next year, and hoping to have that done by July 1st. As built, those locations, update our letter of map revision that we're working on for all of Spearfish Creek and get that approved. That is the other plus of doing this now, is we can incorporate it with the existing Lomar that we already have. We don't have to if we want to do this in the future, that would cost another $8,000 for FEMA costs to submit, plus additional consulting fees too. A lot of information, sort of throw that at you, but that's about the simplest as I can explain it. Any questions?
What questions does the council have?
I have a question. It's kind of a late thought. I'm sorry.
Use your microphone.
I kind of have a late thought, but when you look at flood rise, aren't trees and shrubbery also a factor, and could there be some mitigation in relation to particularly like all the shrubbery that grows along the creek and that sort of thing? Or is that not even considered when they look at it?
Somewhat. There are Manning's coefficients that they label for the channel, what type of channel it is, if it's heavily vegetated, if it's rock lined, if it's earth lined, if it's concrete lined, things like that. But they don't show every tree that's adjacent to it and everything like that. So it does vary. The thicker the vegetation, the more you have in your channel, the more it affects the flow, but not so much the trees.
Marty?
So the monies we approved already for taking them out this year would cover the design and the refiguring of the rise to see if it would approve. It'd be doable, I guess.
Yeah, I believe so. I mean, we again, the 70,000 that we have to take out both of those this year was not budgeted, but I don't believe, if we only take out one bridge this year, we should have enough money, within that 70,000 this year to do the additional H&H analysis for the no-rise, as well as the supplemental design assistance from AE2S that we need to bid the Rushmore Bridge getting placed for next year as well. And then overall, again, about 120, 130,000. I did forget to say that does include rec path extensions off of the existing path, 8 feet on each side there, and probably replacing a little bit in Salem Park. There's some very flat areas there that hold water. So that would get everything connected in as well. The other thing that I forgot, I just remembered now, is our conversation at Public Works. We could consider getting better signage and bike lane symbols where it's a little less obvious, like we were going to do temporarily here, to also get people over to the 8-foot path by on the west side of St. Joe, as well as that kind of area that's hard to find along 3rd Street from Salem Park up to where our 8-foot path goes again. So that is something else we could add in. It'd be a little bit more money, but signage and striping, maybe a few thousand more dollars, 5,000, 6,000. That we could figure that out later too. If that's something the council would like to see in the project.
I'm assuming you have.
Yeah, Mayor, if I may. Yeah, Kyle, to the sharrows and the share the road signs we talked about, I think that regardless of which option we go with, that is critical to the plan to move people safely, just with the fact that Rushmore Bridge is going to be gone, and similar to the conversation we had with the local bike group and the things we showed there. We had this conversation at Public Works, and just to kind of read the conversation, I don't know if you're still on that same page, but I would recommend going with option 2 and relocating that bridge, specifically with the reduction of with the elimination of Rushmore. We're going to get a lot more traffic on that Peoria Bridge. Also, as the city grows, as we're expanding the rec path, looking down the road and seeing the extra usage that's going to get, I think we would do ourselves a disservice if we delayed the widening of the Peoria Bridge, for lack of a better word.
Was that a motion?
No, I still want to leave it up for discussion.
Did you have any other discussion or comments, questions? Yeah, Marty?
Could you touch on, looking forward, if we go with option 2, the impacts to the budget and conceivably where some of those funds could come from?
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
we have $20,000 budgeted next year for design of installing Rushmore in Peoria spot, And so anything we do above and beyond 20,000 would require a supplement. Most likely from cash on hand unless we see some of our bid items next year come in favorable. And then we would have room within next year's budget to proceed forward with it.
Thank you. Any other comments, questions? Okay, can I have a motion?
I would make a motion to go with option 2.
Second.
Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Is that a roll call? 'Cause
And
we're
it says
spending
it's
money?
not. I think it's budgeted. Should it be roll call?
We should do a roll call because it does, are we tying the funds to it
Well,
in the motion?
we're tying the 70,000 that was already approved, but that was a supplemental from earlier this year. Let's just do a roll call and cover our bases.
Do that.
Clark,
Yes.
Eisenbrook,
Yes.
Herman,
Yes.
Hodge,
Yes.
Jacobs,
Yes.
Larrabee.
Yes.
For those of you in the audience wondering why are they doing that, the state law changed, and so when we expend money, it has to be a roll call vote. So that's why we have 2 different kinds of votes. If you're scratching your head and think, what's going on here? So that's why. Okay, next, make final selection on Jackson Boulevard, exit 12, gateway welcome sign.
This is easier to explain.
Okay.
This is, as you recall, last council meeting, we had 3 options. The one that council chose was option B with some modifications. I'll go through those real close. So this is option B with modifications. There's a couple that I'm going to show you here for this concept. D is what we're calling it now. One continues to have the welcome to in cursive, and the other one is in print, like all of you had wanted there too. So let's just keep it here for now, but we can go back and forth, keep that in mind there. So some of the major changes on option B, which you see here in option D now, is the material was swapped. So the main part of the sign is now Corton steel, and then the tower, so to speak, would be proposed to be some sort of wood. The other major changes would be Crow Peak was the silhouette is now shown on the top of the sign, and then the S, the lower S, we do not have that full swoop all the way through. It has been changed too, and I believe those were the main changes that we were looking at. We also did take a look. Their new recommendation on the sign height and width, I believe, was 14 feet wide by 7.5 feet tall. So we will double check that before we modify it, make sure it looks good there and we can see it very legibly, but we're pretty confident that should pop. Which reminds me, the other thing that you requested is that the text itself was fattened up, so to speak, a little bit more too, as well as the black background that would be behind it, where the lights would shine on too. So those are the main changes there. And again, keep in mind the leaves will look more like leaves before we fabricate that too. Any questions?
No questions?
I would like to make a motion to accept the second option in the packet, one on the screen.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Okay, I guess all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And finally, accept FMG Engineering's design proposal, amendment number 3.
Yes, you're almost rid of me here, so.
Almost ready.
I'll keep this one quick. Yeah, this was, we came to council last time to propose a modification to the alignment of phase 2. This is just a formal fee to do that, to change the alignment basically from Old Highway 14 up to Butte Electric. That would entail additional topography and design work. And the other part of this, as far as in the proposal, would be work to help help supply exhibits, et cetera, for our TA grant that will be coming up in October 1st. FMG would help us get that all packaged up and give us exhibits and some other additional support on that. So overall, $12,598. I think it's a really good price. I was ballparking $20,000 to $30,000 on it, and in turn, I believe we'll easily save over $100,000 in construction costs by swapping that to the west side.
Okay.
Move to approve. Second.
Any discussion? Yes.
Could you reiterate the county's comments at all, if there were any, on the realignment?
Yes, that's a good point. So we did take this to the county. They were supportive of it and approved it as is for the realignment. So they're okay with the realignment too. Obviously, they'll have an option to, or not an option, we will take back when we have a more final design on that and let them take a look at that, make any suggestions. But the general alignment that we requested, they did approve, and they were okay with that change. So, as well as the DOT, when they were out there walking with us with the TA grant, they did verbally support that side. They thought it was a better place to put it.
Any other comments, questions? Okay, ready for vote? Roll call.
Clark,
Yes.
Eisenbrow,
Yes.
Herman,
Yes.
Hodge,
Yes.
Jacobs. Yes. Nervig.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. Under Finance, adopt resolution 2024. This is amending the City of Spearfish credit card acquisition and use policy.
In 2008, the city passed a resolution authorizing the use of credit cards in the city that is required by state law to use credit cards for purchases. We are updating the purchasing policy, the next item on the agenda, so I'd like to take this time to update that resolution also. The resolution just states that the use of the credit cards will be managed by the purchasing policy.
Okay,
Move to approve.
Second.
and any discussion? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Now, the purchasing policy.
Correct. So I've proposed a change to our purchasing policy. It was last revised in 2018. There's minor revisions to languages. We added the format. We added language to outline purchase authority amounts. We state the current bid limit amounts and then who can authorize or sign the actual invoices for payment in the finance office. And we also move this into our existing policy format.
Move to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Next, we have adopt resolution 2020-27, a resolution of support for growing Spearfish businesses.
Can I start on this?
Sure.
This resolution will grant a one-time appropriation of $125,000 to Visit Spearfish. This will come from the hospitality tax fund balance with the condition that Spearfish Economic Development Corporation, Visit Spearfish, and the Spearfish Area Chamber of Commerce develop collaborative economic efficiencies to benefit the Spearfish community. It does require a report to the council prior to January 1, 2022.
Okay. I have a bit to say about this before we have conversation. And so we did have a small meeting with Visit Spearfish last week, and this came out of that meeting. But I just wanted to make some statements here because there has been an intense amount of conversation around this funding or defunding, depending on the stance you're taking of Visit Spearfish. And I just want to share some background so that we are all on the same page. I am for Visit Spearfish. We are all for Visit Spearfish. We do not want it to shut its doors. And I believe that there is major value in marketing, promotion, and sponsorship of Spearfish and of our community. And those dollars are well spent. For at least the previous two budget cycles prior to this one, there has been discussion on the reduction of funding to Visit Spearfish and using those funds for other tourism-related purposes. I wanted to make some things clear. The hospitality tax, which is also called the triple B, and it's also called third penny, but they're all the same fund. And and by ordinance, they can be used for some different things. And by ordinance, the revenue from the tax is used for land acquisition, architectural fees, construction costs, payments for the civic center, auditorium or athletic facility buildings, including the maintenance, staffing, operations of facilities, and promotion and advertising of the city, its facilities, attractions, and activities. So there's a wide range of things that this fund does. So earlier this year, prior to budget, there were some small group meetings with different council members and Director Caldwell and some board members. And these conversations were designed to have a better understanding of the organization and how it runs, and discuss any concerns and changes some council members would like to see. Budget cuts were definitely part of that conversation, and so this didn't come as a surprise. We've been talking about this for at least the last quarter pretty intensely. So other communities our size have half the budget of Visit Spearfish, and those numbers are out there. This council is not looking to take away the budget, but reduce it. Visit Spearfish receives over $200,000 annually also in bid fees, and so the third penny is not their only source of funding. And this puts, the $200,000 puts them right in line with other communities our size. That isn't to say that $200,000 is enough, it's just saying that it's typical. So it's not out of line. When talking about numbers, there's something else that I really feel I need to address. When there are statements made, such as 100% of the hospitality tax is being cut, without giving a greater context and greater understanding of the story, you're only telling half the story, which means you're also only telling half truth. And in reality, you were talking about only half of the budget. It is misleading to the public, and I find it absolutely irresponsible to members of our community to not give them the full story. I understand passion is for what is important to you, and none of us would be up here if we didn't feel that same passion for what is important to us. But emotion without the facts is a misleading path, and we cannot go down that path, and I feel that's the direction that this has been going. So what the council is asking for are adjustments to the model. We want to be cutting edge, we want to be relevant, and we want to be vital for our community. So, and I believe that this council is saying now is the time to shift, and you can, and that is why this resolution came forward to help in a time of shifting. And I believe that this can be an exciting challenge, and it just really depends on perspective, but I think this is a good thing that we're moving toward. In our latest meetings with Visit Spearfish, they brought a revised budget, and this funding will fulfill that budget. So they will be about 327, somewhere in there, 325 from their requested 420, I believe is what it was. So that is where it sits, and that is why this resolution is coming forward. I have heard multiple times that I think efficiencies can be found with the three, with economic development, with Visit Spearfish, and bringing in the chamber, that we can find some efficiencies, and that is, that's what the council is asking for, and so that is what we're presenting here in order to fill that gap for this year, and then work on finding those efficiencies and continuing to adjust the budget into the future. So with that long explanation, I want to open it up to the council to see if they have any comments that they would like to say. Oh, sorry.
If this is a one-time appropriation, could you explain the reasoning or the thought process behind having a report by January of 2022 on here instead of having this basically come up prior to budget talks next year?
Yeah, I can speak to that. This is a broad resolution, and I think as we move into it, we will define it further, and I believe there needs to be at least quarterly reporting. We need to set up what those meetings look like and expectations coming out of that. So that is a very broad direction, but it will have much more specific direction as we move through the year in how that works out. Derek, anything to say?
Yeah, I just want to make a broad kind of statement, not speaking for the rest of the council by any means, but I know over the last 3 months, we've had a lot of discussions with Visit Spearfish, again, about the model, about what funding looks like. And probably the main thing that I'm proud of that came out of this is there was a lot of compromise. I think that there were two sides of the council that were a long ways apart when we came into this. And I think what we came to was a very amicable situation that I think is going to give Visit Spearfish the ability to operate at a very high level, especially for 2021, and give the three groups time to create those synergies that all of us talked about moving into 2022. So I'm really happy with how this came out and very supportive of it. Thank you.
Any other comments from council?
Yeah, I can speak if I can, Mayor. For me, I can echo what Derek said. I was on the side of, I don't believe you cut advertising dollars in a down year. And I think I have a real hard time with that, knowing that in order to revive some of our businesses and allow them to grow properly, we want to bring more tourism to town. And so how do you do that except advertising? And so I definitely was not on the side of cutting the hospitality tax, all of that to budget or to Visit Spearfish. So the compromise was very important, and I do think there can always be more efficiencies that happen, and I definitely believe that there needs to be more synergy with all of our groups, and they all need to work more cohesively together, and I feel like this is a step in that direction as well. So I was very thankful for those conversations at the same time. So I support it too. I don't know.
Any other comments?
I'd move to approve.
I'll second that. Okay, any further discussion? Yes.
I guess I would ask that you amend your motion to change the dates from the January 1st of the 2022 to a sooner reporting period instead of leaving that wide open 2 years down the road.
Mayor, if I may, on that. I know we did discuss that a little bit in regards to timing, and it puts a pretty fast time frame when you're talking moving situations, moving organizations, moving what their whole budget, what that looks like for the board. So I think this is a very fluid thing, and so I think if you leave it the same way and make adjustments, basically you could use the term, you plan well and you hold it loosely, right? And so we're going to continue to plan throughout the year, and there's going to be meetings and conversations that take place. And I feel that, this is a good start, and it can always be adjusted. But that's my take. As far as my second, I guess. But
Yeah, I'm going to echo what Dan said. I think that it will be up to the mayor and probably Mike to make sure to hold these dates to keep things moving forward. But I think given a full year, at least a full budget cycle, gives the groups the time they need. So yeah, I think I'm going to leave my motion as stated.
Any further discussion? Okay, hearing none, roll call.
Clark,
Yes.
Eisenbrun,
Yes.
Harmon,
Yes.
Hodge,
yes.
Jacobs,
Yes.
Clairby.
Yes.
Okay, motion carries. So next, approve first reading of ordinance 1331. This is the 2020 appropriations ordinance, AKA the budget.
Yes. This ordinance will set the 2021 budget for $53,276,666, which includes all interfund transfers. The format of the ordinance is that is prescribed by the South Dakota Department of Legislative Audit.
Move to approve.
Second. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Parks and Rec, approve the closeout of the 2020 pickleball court Phase 2 project.
Thank you, Mayor. This is project 2 of the pickleball court project with Renner Sports. This was the court and the fencing. Final project cost came in right at bid at $148,312.32. In addition to this, we're also asking you to authorize the mayor to sign the certificate of completion and set the 2-year warranty date as September 8th.
Move to approve.
Second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Adopt Resolution 2020-25, application for the Transportation Alternative Grant to aid in financing of Exit 8 multi-use connector rec path.
Yeah, thanks again. This is the same grant we went after last year with the South Dakota DOT and was awarded $400,000 for Phase 1. We are eligible again for Phase 2 for another $400,000, so I am requesting that you approve this resolution of support. It's actually a requirement of the grant application and also strengthens our chances by saying that we will maintain it and help fund our portion of the project.
Move to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, all in favor say aye. All opposed? Motion carries. And then adopt a new City of Spearfish Employee Safety Program Manual.
Yeah, this has been about an 18-month project that I started working on as soon as I got the Park and Rec Director job here last spring. Mike came to me as the safety coordinator and said, I want to change the direction of the safety culture of the city, and one of the first ways you do that is you have to have some kind of SOP or some kind of manual that kind of spells that out. And so I went to work with the help of Dusty and some other people on the leadership team kind of drafting what that would look like for us based on my experiences and research of other cities. What we came up with was a pretty extensive safety manual. It's about 120 some pages deep. It covers basically 6 general areas. You can see there: general safety rules, safety training, inspections, an employee-led safety committee, risk mitigation, and an awards program. And then the back half of the manual covers many of the programs that a lot of municipalities have. So confined space, lockout, tagout, bloodborne pathogens. Those are all pretty standard safety programs that we see. It was written in a general sense so that each department can kind of tailor their own department safety manual to this manual, because as we know, everybody's different. The city police and fire are different than parks, it's different than wastewater. So the goal of department heads and supervisors will now be to write a program for their own departments to kind of mirror this general safety program. It has been reviewed by Mike and myself, Chief Rodert, and Dusty. It also went to the Employee Safety Committee for about 6 weeks. We sat down and reviewed page by page, and then after that, it went to legal and actually reviewed it. So I think we're finally at a point where we're ready to adopt this and move it forward. And kind of moving forward, we'll implement it and start training department heads and supervisors on what it means and the things that they're gonna have to do to make it compliant, and then we'll start training staff and be moving forward. So.
Move to approve.
Second.
Any discussion?
Yeah.
Yes.
Could you kind of give us an idea of how the different departments will add to it for their, you're seeing this as general, so police department, how do they have 2 separate ones? Is this added to? Is it just, I'm just curious how that process,
Sure. So
how do you see that process?
The best way I can explain is I can give you an example of like the confined space program. For instance, us in the Parks Department, we don't do it that often, so we're gonna not need a robust a program as maybe the wastewater treatment plant does, where they're doing it maybe on a daily basis. And so being able to use this as kind of a template, if you can look through it, it kind of gives people a template to follow and base it off of their needs. And so when I mean it's general, when they write their portion of it and kind of implement it, it'll have to be at least to that standard and no less. It's kind of.
Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Planning and zoning, we hold a public hearing on ordinance 1324, revised ordinance of Spearfish by zoning certain property. Who is this one?
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
Jana, I believe, is on Zoom.
Oh, she
and
is, okay.
Yep, joining us electronically.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, yes, we can, thank you.
Okay. Okay, this is a cleanup of our 17-foot wide strip running along the south side of Colorado Boulevard from Rainbow Road all the way over to Sky Ridge property in general. This is just necessary to apply zoning, which will be the ag zoning district. We do not have any actual development rights associated with that zoning because obviously it's the location of our water sewer infrastructure extending up to Elkhorn Ridge. Planning Commission recommends approval.
Okay, thank you. So at this time, I will open a public hearing. Is there anyone that signed up to speak in the room? Is there anyone that really wished they had signed up to speak in the room? Okay, seeing no one, we'll go to Zoom. Is there anyone that wishes to speak on this amendment? Please unmute your microphone and introduce yourself. Okay, seeing no one, I will close the public hearing. Is there a motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, roll call.
Clark,
Yes.
Eisenbron,
Yes.
Herman,
Yes.
Hodge,
Yes.
Jacobs. Yes. Larrabee.
Yes.
Okay, motion carries. Next, we have another public hearing. This is on Ordinance 1326, also a zoning ordinance.
Okay, this is a cleanup of the zoning code or the sign code that we brought forward back in March. And as we've used it for a few months now, we've noticed a few little minor changes we need to make. The first one has to do with how we treat temporary signs and non-conforming signage. And in this instance, only permanent signs should be granted non-conforming status because obviously temporary signs can be removed easily and without much effort. The second thing we're going to do is unify how sidewalk signs in the downtown are allowed in terms of the permitting. We had it originally in the old ordinance allowed by simply getting a sign permit, but for whatever reason, we had that as an encroachment agreement, which is an extra 2 weeks and additional processing for applicants. We didn't think it was appropriate, so we're just making it simply a permit, and they indemnify and also provide the city as list the city as their insured on their policy. The third thing we changed was actually between first and second reading. We found that we had a minor issue with how a site visibility triangle is measured, and we did not describe where it's measured from. So anytime you have a sign on the corner of two street intersections, it has to be clear of a 25-foot by 25-foot triangle, and we're going to note that is measured along the curb. And that's the difference between first and second reading. And once again, Planning Commission does recommend it.
Okay, thank you. So I will open the public hearing for Ordinance 1326. There is no one that has signed up in the room, and so we'll go to Zoom. Is there anyone that would like to speak on Ordinance 1326? Okay, seeing no one, I will close the public hearing. Give a
Move to
motion.
approve.
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, hearing none, roll call.
Clark,
Yes.
Eisenbron,
Yes.
Herman,
Yes.
Hodge,
Yes.
Jacobs. Yes. Larrabee.
Yes.
Okay, motion carries. We are going on to Public Works. Authorize city staff to permanently close at least 250 feet of East Main Alley. Hello, Dustin.
East Main Alley has been rapidly deteriorating as of late, and for the last 18 months, we've closed it because it wasn't safe to drive on. We contacted a number of different engineering firms, went out to the property, looked at it, and determined that it was going to be rather expensive to fix that alley, bring it back up to safe standards. So we talked amongst the staff and wanted to bring it to you just to close that last 250 feet. It isn't a high-traffic alley, seldom used, mostly by trash truck drivers.
Move to authorize the permanent closure of 250 feet on East Main Alley.
Second that.
Any discussion? Okay, hearing none. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Approve final change order for City Hall roof membrane replacement project.
No increase, no decrease.
Move to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And that includes request mayor to sign certificate of final completion, am I right?
Yes, it did.
Okay, I thought it did. Very good. So next, approve the bill list, thank you. Approve the bill list dated September 8th.
Move to approve.
Second.
Any discussion on that? Anything to add, Michelle? Okay, roll call.
Clark,
Yes.
Eisenbrand,
Yes.
Herman,
Yes.
Hodge,
Yes.
Jacobs,
Yes.
Larrabee.
Yes.
Motion carries. Mayor and council items, any items from the council? Yes.
I had a couple questions on the funds that the city has received through the CARES Act this year and where that was spent. And I know that we did like a filter cleaning, whatever, filtration system or whatever. Could you just kind of give an overview of how much we did receive and roughly where that money was spent?
I may want to yield the floor to Michelle, she gave you specifics, but I'll give you a high-level overview. Approximately $2.6 million of CARES Act was allocated to the city. Of that, a substantial amount is reimbursable for law enforcement wages, public safety, public health official wages. And so we have, and Michelle, if the mayor would allow me to jump in, I would say close to 7 figures of law enforcement wages, perhaps even more. We've then purchased PPE, so we're establishing a 6-month supply of PPE that we'll put in the basement of City Hall for potential outbreaks. We've bought thermometers that we're scanning temperatures for people coming in and out of City Hall. The sanitizing of playgrounds that we did, all of those staff hours, the chemicals, et cetera, we've submitted for reimbursement. A number of CARES Act related or COVID-19 related time, all of the time that we spent with the EOC open, so Pat's time, my time, Michelle's time, all of the staff time, that is being submitted, as well as hand sanitizer, the signage we put up in the playgrounds, the signage we put up in City Hall, a number of those types of things is what we've submitted for. The last number, off the top of my head, were about $500,000 to $600,000 unallocated. And although we've submitted it, we've only received a small portion of it. But Mayor, if I could yield the floor to Michelle, she could give you more specifics about what we've received.
As of today, we've received just over $600,000 in CARES Act dollars to the city. That is directly related to the public safety wages. So that'll go into the general fund and also the 911 fund because dispatch wages are paid from that fund. We do have another large claim that we'll be working on. That's for the hours to operate the rec center daycare that we provided for essential personnel throughout the entire community of the city of Spearfish. We'll claim that too. And then another cost that we have is the protective equipment that we've installed at all of the windows, whether it's temporary at this point, and then we're working on getting permanent glass installed to protect our staff and the customers that come to us with those. So those are the main things, but as of right now, we received just at $600,000. We have another, that's all the claims that we submitted so far. We do have to wait on the public safety claims until we get our 911 dollars. We do have to reduce that by any 911 surcharge we receive, which we get that about 3 months after the fact. So that's a little delayed, and then we'll be working on getting the other claims submitted, but we're close to our 2.6 million.
Thank you.
Anything else? Okay. Department items.
I shared with committee, we are seeing, I don't want to say tremendous, but we're certainly seeing an impact with COVID-19 among staff. Approximately 10% of our staff have either been positive or been associated with a positive exposure. And so what we're doing internally is implementing the mask mandate, so we're all socially distanced here, but if we're in a meeting where we cannot be socially distanced, we're requiring both staff and visitors to mask up if we can't accomplish the 6 feet. So it's here, it's impacting us, but I think we're reacting reasonably, and we'll do the best we can to keep providing the services we provide.
Thank you. Thank you. Ashley? Michelle? Okay, Tyler?
Yeah, just a few updates. Kids Point Daycare started August 31st at the rec center. Things are going extremely well, going very well actually. They started out with a few kids, and every week they're picking up more and more until they get to their max of 40. And we had our first hourly care drop-ins this morning. It worked flawlessly, so that's going really well. So thank you to the council for pushing us to do that. We're in the process of getting the improvements made. We got a fence done this last weekend, and we're working in the process of making those improvements. Kids Point, obviously, they had their inspection with DSS and was licensed fully. And then we got our certificate of occupancy from Tom Paisley on a temporary basis until we can get those improvements permanently done. So it's been a good thing, a lot of good comments from members of the community. Second thing on the rec center, we are moving into a new phase of operation. Today was the first day of school, and we had after-school kids show up. We knew that they were going to come whether we had an after-school program or not, so we implemented a plan. We had 20 show up today, which was actually more than what we expected, but it went well. We had people at the door greeting them, kind of designating them where they need to go. We have them in the gym broken into groups of 10 or less so they can kind of social distance, and it went pretty well, and I expect that program to grow. One thing that we're getting pushed really hard on from the community is group fitness classes. They want us to start last month. And so we're putting a plan in place to start October 5th with a lot of controls. So pre-registering for classes, limiting the number of classes, moving all classes into the gym so people can really spread out, and we're going to try to implement that plan October 5th. Granted, if things change and really ramp up, this is a very fluid plan. So just wanted to update you on some of the stuff we're doing there to get people back in the facility and the concerns we're hearing from them. So. And then finally, on the park side, Adopt a Park, we passed that program a couple months ago. It took us a little while to get it going, but we've had 4 groups adopt parks. Ainsworth Benning, Blackhills State Women's Volleyball, Monument Health, and Rotary Club have all adopted parks and have done work days and have done substantial amounts of work for us. So we are planning on recognizing them at a council meeting here October, November, and presenting plaques and thank yous to them because they've done a tremendous amount of work for us this summer already. So.
Thank you. Thank you for getting that program going.
Yeah.
Appreciate that too. Let's see, Dusty?
Nothing, ma'am.
Nothing. Okay, how about online? Do we, Pat on or anyone else?
I have a couple of items, Mayor.
Okay, yes.
I'm showing as Chief Deaver online. I apologize. He hijacked my account this morning during the Zoom meeting. This is Director Roeder. Just a couple of updates. Our wildland firefighters were back in town for a couple of days. We statused them up and they went right back out. We have 2 crews out, one in California and one in Montana. If you happen to catch anything in the news, there was a bad incident at one of the fires in California. It was not the fire that our firefighters were on, but there was a situation where there were several injured. If you happen to see that, it was not our group, but they are actually nearby there, and it's a pretty tense situation in California. The other crew is in Montana, and hopefully this weather we just had calms things down in Montana a little bit. Second item, the mayor, city administrator, myself, HR, and Chief Deaver have worked through internal candidates for the fire chief position to work on Chief Deaver's retirement. And we've worked through those candidates, and hopefully within the next week we'll have a decision on either a candidate from that group or whether or not we want to move to external candidates. But hopefully we'll have something within the next week for that process. And that's all.
All right, thank you. Jana? Anything from Jana? Is that all that's online for staff?
I'm sorry,
Jana,
I had to unmute.
Yeah.
Mayor, I have nothing to report, just to say again, thanks for hosting on Zooms. I have family and visiting, so thank you.
Yep, thank you very much. So if there are no other discussion items, we'll move on to a time of public comment. We're going to start first in the room. You have 2 minutes to speak and just introduce yourself and let us know what you think.
John Dale, 239 West Jackson Boulevard. I bring words today from 2 other people. I might go 210 or so. I practiced a couple of times. These are stunning pieces of content that I wanted to share with my community, and this is a great forum. Thank you. The COVID-19 pandemic is only demonstrating what we all know, that millennia of patriarchy have resulted in a male-dominated world, with a male-dominated culture which damages everyone, women, men, girls, and boys. That from the UN Secretary General, Antonio Guterres. Amazing comment. This from Rudyard Kipling. If you can keep your head when all about you are losing theirs and blaming it on you, if you can trust yourself when all men doubt you, but make allowance for their doubting too, if you can wait and not be tired by waiting or being lied about, don't deal in lies, or being hated, don't give way to hating. And yet, don't look too good, nor talk too wise. If you can dream and not make dreams your master, if you can think and not make thoughts your aim, if you can meet with triumph and disaster and treat those two impostors just the same, if you can bear to hear the truth you've spoken, twisted by knaves to make a trap for fools, or watch the things you gave your life to broken, and stoop to build them up with worn out tools. If you can make one heap of all your winnings and risk it on one turn of pitch and toss and lose, and start again at your beginnings and never breathe a word about your loss. If you can force your heart and nerve and sinew to serve your turn long after they are gone, and so hold on when there is nothing in you except the will which says to them, hold on. If you can talk with crowds and keep your virtue, or walk with kings, nor lose the common touch. If neither foes nor loving friends can hurt you, if all men count with you, but none too much, if you can fill the unforgiving minute with 60 seconds worth of distance run, yours is the earth and everything that's in it, and which is more, you'll be a man, my son. That's a poem titled If by Rudyard Kipling. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Jim. Yes.
I'm Doris Cardwell, and I work at Good Earth Natural Foods, and I would just like to say a thank you to the council for reaching the compromise that you're speaking of to allow Visit Spearfish to continue at the capacity that it has been operating, because as a small business employee, the marketing that they provide is really important to us. So I appreciate the fact that you guys were willing to come from opposite sides and meet in the middle. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Doris.
Jared DeGraff, part owner and operator of Antonio's Restaurant and also Nowhere Men's Clothier and Lounge on Hudson Street, soon to open. I also want to say thank you to all the council members on coming to this compromise, this agreement. I, along with many other business owners in the area, we operate these unique businesses that we put our blood, sweat, and tears into and collect this hospitality tax. And we're grateful that it is going to be used for Visit Spearfish still. We never wanted to not see a complex be built, but we didn't want to see Visit Spearfish go under either. I'm happy to see that Visit Spearfish is staying open because if not, who would market that complex when the complex does open? Who would welcome those organizations that come to that complex? Surely nobody can do that better than Visit Spearfish and the people that work there. They are all members of our community, and they know it better than anybody else. They know its rhythm and its beat. So we look forward to the future and that complex being built. And I'm happy to see that with Visit Spearfish getting the funding that it needs to stay operating at its current capacity, that we will be able to meet this complex when it is built strong. We will meet the complex with strength. We will meet it with strength of local small businesses, since Visit Spearfish will still be able to be marketing all over the country for us in a way that we cannot. Strength of marketing for all of us as a whole. And meet the complex and all the organizations that come to also with strength of care and hospitality, which is something that people really remember when they come here. So, thank you once again.
Thank you, Sherry. Anyone else? Okay, seeing no one in the room, we'll move on to Zoom. Is there anyone that would like public comment? Please unmute your microphone. Okay, seeing no one.
Move to adjourn?
How about a second?
Second.
Any discussion about that? Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Great.